we need to critique Russia right now, but you can't really critique Russia if we don't understand why Russia is doing what Russia is doing. And the best way to understand why Russia is doing what Russia is doing is to see where we did the same thing. When you think about Russia doing that, what's your natural feeling toward Russia?
It's pretty negative. I mean, Ukraine's its own nation. And
Yeah.
It has the right to be its own nation. I don't think it's right that Russia's just coming in there trying to take over.
And when you think about Russia doing that, and you think about the United States, do you have any examples that come to mind of when the United States has done that? Or when we're doing it, even like right now, where in the world we're doing that?
Personally, I prefer the ideals of the United States, and I believe that those free values would be better for the world if more countries embraced them.
Yeah.
Am I super in favor of the United States going into these territories and fighting on behalf of certain regimes? I'm not really sure. Obviously, Vietnam didn't turn out very well, nor did Korea.
Do you know how many civilians were killed in Vietnam and Cambodia?
I don't know the exact number, but it was a lot.
Like what's your guess?
Couple million.
Okay. Well, it's more than that, but that's okay. You got a couple million here. What you need to know is, I'm not equalizing the United States or Russia. They're two very different societies, okay? Very different political systems. This is the U.S. and the USSR, right? After World War II, the world essentially got divided into two like camps. The eagle, that's the U.S. and NATO, the blue, and then the bear, we call it, and that would be the Soviet Union, the communists, right? Communist countries. Everything in red, including Cuba down here. We could put Nicaragua here, partly red. So this is all aligned with the Soviet Union. The Union of the Soviet Socialist Republic is what USSR stands for. And then Russia was the main country. This is Russia. And then, we're associated with NATO and the US and so on, right? And so we divided the world up. We fought the Cold War. You know something about this, right?
Yes.
Why did we fight the Cold War?
Well, Russia was expanding, or the USSR, they were expanding communism throughout Eastern Europe and different places there, Vietnam and Korea, obviously. United States and other free nations took that as a threat.
So when we expanded capitalism into Latin America, how would you describe that? Every country, we see ourselves positively. Everything we would say about the Soviet Union expanding, the U.S. was expanding. We were expanding our markets. We were expanding, we called it freedom, but they called it freedom. It's the same thing. We did not want any of this to turn red. These people were talking about things like freedom and democracy and safety and security, and they were critiquing their governments who were taking their land and stealing their resources, and we called them communists, and then, we sent the resources down that their countries could destroy them. The people I met who have been tortured by the United States, by innocent people, right? It's just like the stories that I could tell you are just absolutely horrific. And it's the same thing, we were imposing our ideas on it. But I want to give you the Russian side of the story, okay? So here's 1949 to 1980, you can see this, right? So this is what was the Soviet Union. So this is Crimea right here. In Crimea, the Russians put their largest naval base that they had. The Soviet Union did, the Soviets did, right here in the tip of Crimea. And this is the key to everything. Because you want to be able to come through Turkey, like the Bosphorus and so on, like right through here, and come out into the Atlantic. I mean, this is everything for the Russians. This is like the key. People say that Crimea is the key to controlling that whole region of the world. And the Russians had that. And the Russians are saying, listen, y'all, you keep pulling these countries over here to the NATO side, and we're looking out for our geopolitical interests. These were part of the Soviet Empire. Then the Soviet Empire breaks down in 1989, and one by one, you keep pulling them over into NATO. And that's very destabilizing for us. You can't do that. And especially Crimea. And Crimea is what we're fighting over right now. So Crimea is part of the Ukraine. And the Russians are saying, you can't, Ukraine, we are not letting Ukraine go toward NATO. We're not letting Ukraine go to the United States. It's too unsettling. It's too dangerous for us. We don't want to do that. We need the Ukraine as part of our orbit. because we're looking out for ourselves. And I thought, well, my God, that's what the United States has done. That's what we did all through Latin America. All that happened to them because we didn't want to allow these countries to go toward a different orbit. We said, we're not going to let that happen. And so what we're going to do is we're going to allow the slaughter of millions and millions and millions of innocent people because we, the United States, don't want to allow these countries to go toward a different geopolitical orbit. And that's exactly what Putin and the Russians are saying about Crimea.
快手，拥抱每一种生活。